In the in yesterday's session, I have given a brief introduction about Python. So first of all, what we have discussed yesterday, what is Python? Python is a programming language. Second, we have discussed who has introduced Python. Python has introduced by Guido van Rossum in the year 1989 from Netherlands. And what are the prerequisites we require to learn Python means? Nothing, you don't require anything. Why Python is so popular in IT industry? Python is running in multiple areas like all these. That's the reason it became very popular. Why Python is using many areas? Because of below features of Python. Yesterday we procedural. I have a question. Programming languages are two types. One is procedural oriented language. Second one is object oriented programming language. Can you? Python is a procedural oriented and procedural oriented as well as object oriented programming language. Procedural oriented and as well as object oriented programming language. Okay, so that is the story. So my concern to all the people here. So many people doesn't have the have a knowledge about what do you mean by procedural oriented, what do you mean by object oriented. Now I'm going to explain about it. Right. Programming languages are two types. Number one is called procedural oriented programming language. Procedural oriented programming language. And number two is called object oriented programming language. Object oriented programming language. With this we can say programming languages are two categories. One is procedural oriented programming language. Another one is object oriented programming language. So what do you mean by? What do you mean by procedural oriented programming language? What do you mean by procedural oriented programming language? And what do you mean by object oriented programming language? Come on, all of you guys, you have line. Yeah, what do you mean by procedural oriented programming language? Listen, in procedural, record the notes. In procedural oriented programming language, program is a collection of procedures or functions. Program is a collection of procedures or functions. In procedural oriented programming language, program is a collection of procedures or functions. Right. Okay, now, right. Functions. Now I'm going to give you. That means whenever you write a program in this approach, that is a collection of procedure or function, both are same. Now I'm going to give you structure of procedural oriented programming. Structure of procedural oriented programming. That means whenever you write a program in this approach, how will be the structure? M1, it is a method or function. Here you will have logic. Some logic will be there. Now here another function called M2. Here you will have some logic. Here you have some logic. And here you have a special function called main. Here you will have a special function called main. And here you are calling M1. Here you are calling M2. Here you are calling M1, M2. Here you can see total your program is a collection of three functions. Function or procedure or method is same. which we use to write some logic. M1 is the first method or function. Method name is M1. It is the block. Here you write the functionality logic. Whenever you have written any function in any programming language, you will have generally this brackets. It's called signature. M2 is another function, and main is the special function. What is the role of main method? Whenever you run this program, your program execution starts from main method. So your execution engine will start from main method. So it will execute first this. Once it is encountered, it will feel that program execution is completed. That means the role of the main method is program execution starts by main method and controlling by main method and stop by main method. That means whenever you have a house, that house will have multi doors, but one door is called main door. Here you will have one door, here you will have one door, here you will have, but this is main door. Main door. What is the role of main door? Entry, and whenever postman will come also main door, and the whole total house is controlling by main door. And whenever you are going out also, last you exit from which door? Main door. That's why the door is called main door. Like that, in your programming law, main method is similar like your main door. Means starts from main method, controlling by main method, and stop by main method. That is the role of main method. And how this code is executing, sir? How this code is executing? Can you explain how this first main method execution engine will start from main method, and it will be here it is calling M1. Control will call M1, means control will go to M1 and will execute. Once it is execution is completed, it will come back. Then after this, control will execute M2. That means control will go to M2 method, will execute and come back. Once it is encountered closing brace, that means program execution is completed. So this is a story about how this procedural oriented programming program will execute. I hope you understood what I said. Everybody are clear about this approach? Yeah. Next, to come back to our discussion, a programming language, a programming language which will support, which will follow the above approach is called as procedural. A programming language which will follow the above approach is called as procedural oriented programming language. Procedural oriented programming language. A programming language which will follow the above approach is called as procedural oriented programming language. So, which programming language is following the above approach? Example for which programming language? Example for procedural oriented programming language. Procedural oriented programming language. Example for procedural oriented programming language. Your C language will follow the above approach. That's why C is called procedural oriented programming language. I hope whenever you have seen C language in your academic, might be you have seen the program almost all this model. That's why C is called procedural oriented programming language. Now come back to what happened. So due to the limitations, some limitations or drawbacks, due to the some limitations of above approach, industry experts are introduced object oriented programming language. Industry experts are introduced object oriented programming language. So now we are going to discuss about object oriented programming language. What do you mean by object oriented programming language? A programming language. What do you mean by object-oriented programming language? In object-oriented, any idea about this? Object-oriented programming language, in object-oriented programming approach, program is a collection of classes. Program is a collection of classes. So now I am going to show you the structure of object-oriented programming language. I am going to give you the structure of object-oriented programming language. Programming structure, right? Here you define a class called C1. Again, I have defined a class called C2. Right, try to understand. So here you define your program with two classes. So here, what is class? Class is one of the object-oriented programming concept. Within the class, we can define the functions like M1, right? Here you write the logic. Generally, in this approach, we can't write a function without the class. You have to write the class. So here a logic of the M2. Now I defined M1 method and M2 method, and a method, function and procedure will be the same. We can use this method to define a logic in programming languages. But here in this approach, you define M1 method and M2 method within a container called C1 class. Here class is a keyword, C1 is the name of the class. Try to understand. Now here, this is opening brace to closing brace is a class block, and M1 block, M2 block, right? So this is the story. Now we defined a class called C1 class. Now here we defined another class called C2 class, but within the C2 class, we have written a method called main. So here also the role of the main method will be same. That means program execution starts by main method, program execution controlling by main method, program execution stop by main method. You take any programming language, here in every language you will have main method. But in procedural oriented programming language, the main method is not part of the class. But in object oriented programming language, that main method is part of another one class. Now here I am calling method called M1. Class name dot method name, that is called M1. And here class name, that is called C1, method name is called M2. So this is the story about object oriented programming language. Sir, how this code will execute exactly? Now I am going to show you simply, right? So you try to understand. Whenever you run the program execution starts from main method. That means your execution engine, and you can observe this here, you have two classes, one class and second class, and this is the one, class 1, C1. This is a C2 class. Okay, here we have to understand one important point. Whenever you run this program, your execution engine will search for main method, like main, where are you? Then main will say, I'm here, boss. Then it will catch. Then it starts from here. First, it will execute M1 method. It will call M1, like this line will execute C1.M1. Here you have to understand one important. It is M1 definition. Here it is called M1 call. It is M2 definition. This is called M2 call. But this is C2 class definition. This is C1 class definition. Remember, C1.M1 will execute first. Then control will go to C1 class like this. And it will call M1, where are you? Then M1 will say, I'm here. Then control will come to here, will execute. Once it is encountered the closing brace, then control will understand M1 method execution is completed. Again, control will come back. Then after this, control will execute the second line, that is C1.M2. Then control will go to C1 class and it will call M2, where are you? It will say, I'm here. Then it will execute. Again, it will come back. Once it is encountered the closing brace of the main method, then control will understand the program execution is completed. That is the story about this one. Right? I hope you understood what I said. So whenever, whenever a programming language, whenever a programming language will follow above approach, which is called as object-oriented programming language, which is called as object-oriented programming language. So example for object-oriented programming languages. Example for object-oriented programming languages. So the above approach is following by C++, Java, and C#.NET. These are all object-oriented programming languages. But coming to Python, I said about Python. What is Python? Python is called what? Python is a procedural-oriented as well as object-oriented programming language. Python is called not only procedural-oriented, not only object-oriented. Now, did you understand the above two concepts or any confusion? Respond in chat window. I have explained in the above procedural-oriented and object-oriented. But object-oriented knowledge will not be very clear right now, because in future we will have a concept called object-oriented programming concepts in Python. Around 20 sessions we will discuss about this concept. But there is a chance right now you may have bit confusion, because if you don't know anything about this concept previously, there is a chance confused. And let me explain. Shall you want me to explain one more time? Come on, respond in chat window, all of you. Right. Now come back to our discussion. What I am telling you here very clearly. Python is a programming language, and it is procedural oriented plus object oriented programming language. To justify that statement, we have to understand these both approaches. That is, programming languages are two types. One is called procedural oriented programming language, and another one is called object oriented programming language. Another one is called object oriented programming language. Object oriented programming language. Let me explain about procedural oriented programming language. What do you mean by procedural oriented programming language? In procedural oriented programming language, program is a collection of procedures or functions. Structure of procedural oriented programming. Here you can observe M1 procedure, M2 procedure, and main procedure. That means here we have three functions, M1, M2, M3. Whenever you write a program in this approach, the program is a collection of functions or procedures or methods, M1, M2, and main. Okay, you can observe this. This is called M1 definition, M2 definition, main definition. These three are functions, but in this, main is a special type of function, because programming execution starts by main and controlling by main and stop by main method. Are you clear? Whenever you run this code, how this code will execute, I explained already. Again, I'm explaining to you here. When you run this code, when you run this code, your execution engine will start from main method. First, this line will execute. Here, control will go to M1 function, will execute and come back. After this, control will execute second line. Here, it will go to M2 function and will come back. Once it is encountered closing brace of the main method, then it will understand program execution is completed. A programming language which will follow the above approach is called as procedural oriented programming language. Example for procedural oriented programming language is C language. Due to the limitations of above approach, above programming approach, industry experts are introduced object-oriented programming languages or object-oriented programming approach. Coming to object-oriented programming approach, what do you mean by object-oriented programming approach? Okay, here you have to understand one important point. This you may not understand in one shot because it's a discussion of 20 sessions. That's the reason. Don't expect that you will get the clarity 100% about object-oriented approach. It is a 20 sessions we discuss about a concept called loops in future in advanced Python. Right. In object-oriented programming approach, program is a collection of classes. Program is a collection of classes. And structure of means whenever you write a program, it will have collection of classes. You can't define a function directly here. So structure of object-oriented programming language. Here you can see. Here I defined a function called class C1. C1 is the name of the class. Class is a keyword. Here you have a function called M1. Here you have a function called M2. M2. And coming to here, I defined another class called C2 class. Within the C2 class, we defined a function called main. Within the main method, we are calling C1.M1, C1.M2. Here also, the role of the main method will be program execution starts by main method, controlling by main method, and stop by main method. Sir, how this code will execute? Now I'm explaining to you all guys. Whenever you run this code, your program execution starts by main method. First this line, C1.M1. Control will go to C1 class and will execute M1 and come back. Next line, it will execute C1.M2. Control will go to C1 class, will execute M2, again come back. Once it is encountered closing brace, then it will understand your program execution is completed. Okay, so a programming language, and whenever a programming language will follow above approach is called as object-oriented programming language. Example for object-oriented programming languages, C++, Java, and C#.NET are called object-oriented programming languages. But here we have to understand one important, what is the advantage of object-oriented programming compared with procedural-oriented will be understanding in future. Now, well, here we have to understand one more important, why we will call Python is a procedural oriented programming as well as object oriented programming language. What is the reason? Right, answer is only one thing. In Python, we can write a program without classes. That means only functions. That's why we can say it supports procedural oriented approach, as well as in Python we can write a program with classes also. So that is the reason you can write a Python program without classes, with classes. When you write a Python program without classes, that concept is called procedural oriented programming concept. Whenever you define a Python program with classes, that is called object oriented programming. So finally, we can say Python is procedural oriented plus object oriented. Python is procedural oriented and as well as object oriented. So now whatever we discussed, it is a big topic, procedural oriented plus as well as object oriented. Next point, seventh point is Python is a dynamic typed programming language. Dynamic typed programming language. That means while declaring a variable, programmer doesn't require to declare data type. to declare data type. For example, to declare data type, the data type will be deciding dynamically when we initialize the value. Record the note simultaneously. The data type of the variable will be deciding dynamically when we initialize the value. If we initialize numerical value, it will take data type as int. If we initialize floating point value, it will take data type as float. If we initialize numerical value, it will take data type as int. If we initialize floating point value, it will take data type as float. Okay, that we are going to see with the example also. For example, again I'm telling you, whenever you write a program in any programming language, programmer only will declare the data type. But here, programmer doesn't require to declare the data type. So automatically, Python execution engine will take the data type. So how it will be? Now I am writing two examples in Python code window. I'm opening Python code window. Whenever you install Python in your system, it will be installed here. Icon will be here. I'm clicking this icon. Now it will open Python code window, Python development environment. Now you can see A equal to 10. A equal to 10 means I have declared a variable called A with a value, numerical value called 10. But I don't know what is the type it's taking. By default, type of A. There is a function we have in Python, that is type function, will give the data type of the variable. You can see. Now you have given numerical value. That's why it's stating as what? Integer. Right. Now B equal to 10.5. So that is floating value. Type of B. Then it's giving what? Float. So that is the story. Are you clear? That is the story. Understood, all of you? Now you can see this. You take this example code. Because of this reason, we can say Python is a dynamic typed programming language. Python is a dynamic typed programming language. Right. This is output. First example 1, you take this one, everyone. Next coming to, this is example 2. Example 2, B equal to 10.5. B equal to 10.5. Type of B. Then output is, it's saying that it's a floating point data type. Like this. Right. So because of this, we can say Python is called dynamic typed programming language. Right. I hope you understood this point. What do you say? How did you understand? Are you that? We'll discuss. Wait some time. When you write the code in Python, you will not write main method. Okay, you write methods, but you will not write main method because main method auto-generated method in Python. That will be discussed in future. Wait some time. So somebody are asking, we didn't write main method also, but how you can say it's a procedural oriented? This is not Python main programming environment. Python main programming environment I'll show you later tomorrow in coding, but you will not write any main method also in Python. Yesterday I explained very clearly. So main method is auto-generated method in Python. You will not see that method. We'll be understanding tomorrow. Now, this is the story. Now we have discussed today 2 points, 6th point and 7th point, and that means 2 features. One is called Python is a procedural oriented plus object oriented programming language. Second point is Python is a dynamic typed programming language. So there are 3 more small points are there. One is what I can say 8 point, 9 point, 10 point. Tomorrow, first 5 minutes, whenever you go to any class, sir will write the code. But here, I will write only 10 to 20% programs. 70 to 80% coding will be doing by you only. I will make you like that. So finally, what feel you have about programming, but in this training, you will feel that programming is very, very easy. You write your own programs. End of the course, you will say, I love coding. So that will be happen. And who are fearing or scaring about coding, definitely in this part of the